The University of Texas at Austin, informally at Austin, UT, University of Texas, or Texas in sports contexts, is a public research university and the flagship institution of the University of Texas system. Founded in 1883 as the University of Texas, its campus is located in Austin, approximately 1 mile from the Texas state capital. The institution has the fifth largest single campus enrollment in the nation, with over 50,000 undergraduate and graduate students and over 24,000 faculty and staff. The university has been labeled one of the public Ivies, a publicly funded university considered to provide a quality of education comparable to those of the Ivy League. It is a major center for academic research, with research expenditures exceeding $550 million for the 2013-2014 school year. The university houses 7 museums and 17 libraries, including the Lyndon Baines Johnson Library and Museum and the Blanton Museum of Art, and operates various auxiliary research facilities, such as the J. Pickle Research Campus and the McDonald Observatory. Among university faculty are recipients of the Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize, the Wolf Prize, the Emmy Award, and the National Medal of Science, as well as many other awards. UT Austin student-athletes compete as the Texas Longhorns and are members of the Big 12 Conference. Its Longhorn network is unique in that it is the only sports network featuring the college sports of a single university. The Longhorns have won 4 NCAA Division I National Football Championships, 6 NCAA Division I National Baseball Championships, and has claimed more titles in men's and women's sports than any other school in the Big 12 since the league was founded in 1996. Current and former UT Austin athletes have won 130 Olympic medals, including 14 in Beijing in 2008 and 13 in London in 2012. The university was recognized by Sports Illustrated as America's Best Sports College in 2002. History. Establishment. The first mention of a public university in Texas can be traced to the 1827 Constitution for the Mexican state of Coahuila y Texas. Although Title VI, Article 217 of that constitution promised to establish public education in the arts and sciences, no action was taken by the Mexican government. After Texas obtained its independence from Mexico in 1836, the Texas Congress adopted the Constitution of the Republic, which, under Section 5 of its general provisions, stated, "It shall be the duty of Congress, as soon as circumstances will permit, to provide, by law, a general system of education." On April 18, 1838, on January 26, 1839, the Texas Congress agreed to set aside 50 leagues of land towards the establishment of a publicly funded university. In addition, 40 acres in the new capital of Austin were reserved and designated College Hill. In 1845, Texas was annexed into the United States. Interestingly, the state's Constitution of 1845 failed to mention the subject of higher education. On February 11, 1858, the 7th Texas Legislature approved OB. 102, an act to establish the University of Texas, which set aside $100,000 in United States bonds toward construction of the state's first publicly funded university. In addition, the legislature designated land previously reserved for the encouragement of railroad construction toward the university's endowment. On January 31, 1860, the state legislature, wanting to avoid raising taxes, passed an act authorizing the money set aside for the University of Texas to instead be used for frontier defense in West Texas to protect settlers from Indian attacks. Texas secession from the Union and the American Civil War delayed repayment of the borrowed monies. At the end of the Civil War in 1865, the University of Texas endowment consisted of a little over $16,000 in warrants, and nothing substantive had yet been done to organize the university's operations. This effort to establish a university was again mandated by Article 7, Section 10 of the Texas Constitution of 1876, which directed the legislature to establish, organize and provide for the maintenance, support and direction of a university of the first class, to be located by a vote of the people of this state, and styled the University of Texas. Additionally, Article 7, Section 11 of the 1876 Constitution established the Permanent University Fund, a sovereign wealth fund managed by the Board of Regents of the University of Texas and dedicated for the maintenance of the university. Because some state legislators perceived an extravagance in the construction of academic buildings of other universities, Article 7, Section 14 of the Constitution expressly prohibited the legislature from using the state's general revenue to fund construction of any university buildings. Funds for constructing university buildings had to come from the university's endowment or from private gifts to the university. But operational expenses for the university could come from the state's general revenues. The 1876 Constitution also revoked the endowment of the railroad lands of the Act of 1858 but dedicated 1 million acres of land, along with other property previously appropriated for the university, to the Permanent University Fund. This was greatly to the detriment of the university, as the lands granted the university by the Constitution of 1876 represented less than 5% of the value of the lands granted to the university under the Act of 1858. The more valuable lands reverted to the fund to support general education in the state. On April 10, 1883, the legislature supplemented the Permanent University Fund with another 1 million acres of land in West Texas previously granted to the Texas and Pacific Railroad but returned to the state as seemingly too worthless to even survey. The legislature additionally appropriated $256,272.57 to repay the funds taken from the university in 1860 to pay for frontier defense and for transfers to the state's general fund in 1861 and 1862. The 1883 grant of land increased the land in the Permanent University Fund to almost 2.2 million acres. Under the Act of 1858, the university was entitled to just over 1,000 acres of land for every mile of railroad built in a state. Had the original 1858 grant of land not been revoked by the 1876 Constitution, by 1883 the university lands would have totaled 3.2 million acres. So the 1883 grant was to restore lands taken from the university by the 1876 Constitution, not an act of munificence. On March 30, 1881, the legislature set forth the structure and organization of the university and called for an election to establish its location. By popular election on September 6, 1881, Austin was chosen as the site of the main university. Galveston, having come in second in the election, was designated the location of the medical department. On November 17, 1882, on the original College Hill, an official ceremony was held to commemorate the laying of the cornerstone of the old main building. University President Ashbel Smith, presiding over the ceremony, prophetically proclaimed, "Texas holds embedded in its earth rocks and minerals which now lie idle because unknown, resources of incalculable industrial utility, of wealth and power. Smite the earth, smite the rocks with the rod of knowledge, and fountains of unstinted wealth will gush forth." The University of Texas officially opened its doors on September 15, 1883. Expansion and growth. In 1890, George Washington Brackenridge donated $18,000 for the construction of a three-story brick mess hall known as Brackenridge Hall, one of the university's most storied buildings and one that played an important place in university life until its demolition in 1952. The old Victorian Gothic main building served as the central point of the campus's 40-acre site, and was used for nearly all purposes. But by the 1930s, discussions arose about the need for new library space, and the main building was razed in 1934 over the objections of many students and faculty. The modern-day tower and main building were constructed in its place. In 1910, George Washington Brackenridge again displayed his philanthropy, this time donating 500 acres on the Colorado River to the university. A vote by the regents to move the campus to the donated land was met with outrage, and the land has only been used for auxiliary purposes such as graduate student housing. Part of the tract was sold in the late 1990s for luxury housing, and there are controversial proposals to sell the remainder of the tract. The Brackenridge Field Laboratory was established on 82 acres of the land in 1967. In 1916, Gov. James E. Ferguson became involved in a serious quarrel with the University of Texas. The controversy grew out of the refusal of the Board of Regents to remove certain faculty members whom the governor found objectionable. When Ferguson found that he could not have his way, he vetoed practically the entire appropriation for the university. Without sufficient funding, the university would have been forced to close its doors. In the middle of the veto controversy, Ferguson's critics brought to light a number of irregularities on the part of the governor. Eventually, the Texas House of Representatives prepared 21 charges against Ferguson, and the Senate convicted him on 10 of those charges, including misapplication of public funds and receiving $156,000 from an unnamed source. The Texas Senate removed Ferguson as governor and declared him ineligible to hold office. In 1921, the legislature appropriated $1,350,000 for the purchase of land adjacent to the main campus. However, expansion was hampered by the restriction against using state revenues to fund construction of university buildings as set forth in Article 7. Section 14 of the Constitution. With the successful completion of Santa Rita No. 1 well and the discovery of oil on university-owned lands in 1923, the university was able to add significantly to its permanent university fund. The additional income from permanent university fund investments allowed for bond issues in 1931 and 1947, with the latter expansion necessary from the spike in enrollment following World War II. The university built 19 permanent structures between 1950 and 1965, when it was given the right of eminent domain. With this power, the university purchased additional properties surrounding the original 40 acres. The discovery of oil on university-owned lands in 1923 and the subsequent addition of money to the university's permanent university fund allowed the legislature to address funding for the university along with the agricultural and mechanical college. With sufficient funds now in the permanent university fund to finance construction on both campuses, on April 8, 1931, the 42nd legislature passed H.B. 368, which dedicated the agricultural and mechanical college a one-third interest in the available university fund. The annual income from permanent university fund investments. Austin was inducted into the American Association of Universities in 1929. During World War II, the University of Texas was one of 131 colleges and universities nationally that took part in the V-12 Navy College Training Program, which offered students a path to a Navy commission. In 1950, the University of Texas was the first major university in the South to accept an African American student. John S. Chase went on to become the first licensed African American architect in Texas. On March 6, 1967, The 60th Texas legislature changed the official name of the university from the University of Texas to the University of Texas at Austin to reflect the growth of the University of Texas system. 1966 shooting spree. On August 1, 1966, Texas student Charles Whitman barricaded the observation deck in the tower of the main building with 2 rifles, a sawed-off shotgun, and various other weapons. He killed a total of 14 people on campus. The massacre ended after Whitman was shot and killed by police after they breached the tower. Prior to the massacre, Whitman had killed his mother and his wife. Whitman had been a patient at the University Health Center, and on March 29, preceding the shootings, had conveyed to psychiatrist Morris Heatley his feelings of overwhelming hostilities and that he was thinking about going up on the tower with a deer rifle and start shooting people. Following the Whitman event, the observation deck was closed until 1968, and then closed again in 1975 following a series of suicide jumps during the 1970s. In 1999, after installation of security fencing and other safety precautions, the tower observation deck reopened to the public. There is a Turtle Pond Park near the tower dedicated to all of those affected by the tragedy. Recent history. The first presidential library on a university campus was dedicated on May 22, 1971, with former President Johnson, Lady Bird Johnson and then President Richard Nixon in attendance. Constructed on the eastern side of the main campus, the Lyndon Baines Johnson Library and Museum is one of 13 presidential libraries administered by the National Archives and Records Administration. A statue of Martin Luther King, Jr. was unveiled on campus in 1999 and subsequently vandalized. By 2004, John Butler, a professor at the McCombs School of Business, suggested moving it to Morehouse College, a historically black college, a place where he is loved. Meanwhile, Patrick Slattery, a professor at Texas A&M University, suggested the historic statues of Confederate veterans on campus should be removed from campus and moved to a museum. The University of Texas at Austin has experienced a wave of new construction recently, with several significant buildings. On April 30, 2006, the school opened the Blanton Museum of Art. In August 2008, the AT&T Executive Education and Conference Center opened, with the Hotel and Conference Center forming part of a new gateway to the university. Also in 2008, Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium was expanded to a seating capacity of 100,119, making it the largest stadium in the state of Texas at the time. On January 19, 2011, the university announced the creation of a 24-hour television network in partnership with ESPN, dubbed the Longhorn Network. ESPN will pay a $300 million guaranteed rights fee over 20 years to the university and to IMG College, at Austin's multimedia rights partner. The network covers the university's intercollegiate athletics, music, cultural arts and academics programs. The channel first aired in September 2011. Campus. The university's property totals 1,438.5 acres, comprising the 423.5 acres for the main campus in central Austin and the J. Pickle Research Campus in North Austin and the other properties throughout Texas. The main campus has 150 buildings totaling over 18 million square feet. One of the university's most visible features is the Boat's main building, including a 307-foot tower designed by Paul Philippe Crête. Completed in 1937, the main building is in the middle of campus. The tower usually appears illuminated in white light in the evening but is lit orange for various special occasions, including athletic victories and academic accomplishments. It is conversely darkened for solemn occasions. At the top of the tower is a carillon of 56 bells, the largest in Texas. Songs are played on weekdays by student carillonneurs. In addition to the usual pealing of Westminster quarters every quarter hour between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. in 1998. After the installation of security and safety measures, the observation deck reopened to the public indefinitely for weekend tours. The holdings of the university's Harry Ransom Humanities Research Center include one of only 21 remaining complete copies of the Gutenberg Bible in the first permanent photograph. View from the window at Le Gras, taken by Nice A4NIE Acute PCE. The newest museum, the 155,000-square-foot Blanton Museum of Art, is the largest university art museum in the United States and hosts approximately 17,000 works from Europe, the United States, and Latin America. The University of Texas at Austin has an extensive underground tunnel system that links all of the buildings on campus. Constructed in the 1930s under the supervision of creator Carl Eckhart, then head of the physical plant, the tunnels have grown along with the university campus. They currently measure approximately 6 miles in total length. The tunnel system is used for communications and utility service. It is closed to the public and is guarded by silent alarms. Since the late 1940s, the university has generated its own electricity. Today, its natural gas cogeneration plant has a capacity of 123 megawatts. The university also operates a TRIGA nuclear reactor at the J. Pickle Research Campus. The university continues to expand its facilities on campus. In 2010, the university opened the state-of-the-art Norman Hackerman building housing chemistry and biology research and teaching laboratories. In 2010, the university broke ground on the $120 million Bill and Melinda Gates Computer Science Complex and Dell Computer Science Hall and the $51 million Bellow Center for New Media, both of which are now complete. The new LEED Gold-certified, 110,000-square-foot Student Activity Center opened in January 2011, housing study rooms, lounges and food vendors. The SAC was constructed as a result of a student referendum passed in 2006 which raised student fees by $65 per semester. In 2012, the Moody Foundation awarded the College of Communication with $50 million, making it the largest endowment any communication college has received, so naming it the Moody College of Communication. The university operates 2 public radio stations, Cut with news and information, and KUTX with music, via local FM broadcasts as well as live streaming audio over the Internet. The university uses Capital Metro to provide bus transportation for students around the campus and throughout Austin.